Hey, Shalom family. Welcome to another edition of Maccabees TV. As you can see, backed by popular demand, I'm here with my brother Kashub the Danite, aka Morey Yeshaya. We back here in Marcus Garvey Park, and as you can see on the table, a man came with a whole lot of books, a whole lot of information, right? And if you look really closely, you can see that the books are old books, which is what I always advise brothers to read. Older books where the information hasn't been so much sanitized and whitewashed. But we're going to get into the books in a moment, right? So, Morey, before you get into this information, the word on the street is that you have an upcoming debate with the Amun-Ra squad on Debate Talk for You this upcoming Friday. Now, I know you, and I know your study habits, and I know the information that you're going to bring. So I'm going to say, intellectually speaking, let me say that again. Intellectually speaking, by the time you're done with the Amun-Ra squad, since them guys like sarcophaguses so much, you're going to intellectually put them guys in a sarcophagus and intellectually wrap them guys up like damn mummies, man. So talk to us about this upcoming debate on Friday.
Hey, first and foremost, giving honor and praise to the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. This upcoming debate is on the South Showtime show. It's the brother who does a thing called Debate Talk for You, and it's pretty popular on the debate world, you may say. Not only for debates, but also for presentations and speeches and so forth and so on. Now, one of the things to sit there and let it be noted is initially it was going to be a discussion between messianic and non-messianic, but then that wound up changing due to the fact of the matter that a lot of the people from the Kemetic community, from namely the Amun-Ra squad, want to keep on talking about Israelites. After all the debates, after the Nasi and Seti debate, and after the Tazariak and Polite debate, people want to sit there and keep on talking about who won and who didn't win. So me and some other Israelite brothers had a discussion and said maybe we should just sit there and just, as the brother Daniela rightfully said, intellectually put them in the sarcophagus and just shut the whole matter down. So that's the situation that's coming up with that. You cannot sit there real quick, try to denounce the scriptures by using an Egyptian source, because the Egyptians were about themselves. The Egyptians were about their own particular thing. So to try to sit there and use that as a catalyst to go against the house of Israel, when Israel had their own thing, their own writings, their own culture, is actually pretty frivolous to sit there and do. And this is why they always wind up losing inside the debates. This is why they can never answer questions that are asked in the debates. So let that be noted. They are asking Israelite a question about Israelite culture based upon Egyptian culture. We don't dig up our dead. You understand? We let the dead rest in peace. So now to sit there and use that as a catalyst to go into the house of Israel is actually a waste of time. Because the two cultures are different. So that's basically a synopsis with that. The Torah does not come from Ma'at, and so we want to sit there and present this kind of situation to let it be noted and understood. The cultures are different, the people are different, the language is different. So that's something to sit there and let it be noted. So with that sends that.
Well, let me just say this real quick on that subject before you begin, right? Go into your main topic, right? When they say that they want to have a debate, their intentions is to come in and ask a whole bunch of questions about the Bible like they always do. That's all that they ever do. But I'm just hoping that you brothers, especially yourself, with the knowledge that you have, present all the flaws with Kemetic understanding that we have today. One of the main things being the chronology, amongst many other things, that these guys cannot answer. I'm going to say that on record. They cannot answer that. Nor can they attest or answer for the fact of all the missing sarcophaguses and bones and bodies of the pharaohs. They're so busy talking about we don't have bodies of the prophets, but in my research, you guys don't have the majority of the pharaohs either. So I'm really hoping that you guys put them on the spot with a lot of things, prepare some questions for them on Kemetic, the Kemetic mindset or the Kemetic doctrine, and that way the debate will be a little more balanced, and rather than having to sit there and answer 101 questions about the Bible like we always do. But with that being said, I know you're not here for that today. So what we're going to do now is we're going to turn the floor over to you, and you're going to say what it is that you came here to say and share the information with the family.
Okay. Giving honor and praise to the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. Giving due respect to some of my teachers who have passed away. Morey Yosef, Kohen Levi, Chief Simeon, my history teacher, and so forth and so on. Now, last time we did a discussion, and it was a situation involving the fact of, I mentioned briefly about the issue of the Egyptian god called Min, or Menu in ancient Egypt. And one of the things to be noted, Ashwa Kwesi shows this picture periodically, and it's a symbol and image of an ancient Egyptian god with his phallic being erect and being shown. Now, they say that in Egyptian culture, that right there was part of the Egyptian pantheon, or part indirectly of the Egyptian Ennead, in reference about fertility. But there's a problem with that. Reason is because of this, and we're going to go over a couple of definitions and then move on. All right, and here's the first thing. Fertility literally means the quality of being fertile. So now, with that being the case, the definition of fertile literally is producing abundantly. So if you're saying that you have an Egyptian god that's supposed to be the sign of fertility, how can that be when he's not being fertile?
Let me see.
It's impossible. You understand? So that's something right there to let it be noted and understood as far as that's concerned. You understand? So just want to sit there and present that case and let that be noted that there's something horribly wrong with that kind of understanding and that kind of logic. One of the things that people try to present when they show that is by saying the Egyptian goddesses were saying, "Blessed be your perfection." I can't teach that to my daughter. I can teach my daughter Proverbs 31. I can teach my daughter the story of Job, a man who had a lot, lost it, kept his faith in the Most High God, and then gained everything back later. That I can teach my child. I cannot teach my child the story of Min, who is not said to have any children. So therefore, to say that he is the symbol of fertility is actually quite disrespectful once understanding comes into play. Fertilization happens inside of the female's fallopian tubes. You understand? When the sperm fertilizes the egg. So therefore, without that being there, there's no way to say that an erect phallus itself is a sign of fertility when a man is not even being shown with a woman. So let that be noted and understood. Just want to sit there and clarify that kind of subject matter right there. Now, I have a book here for evidence purposes. It is entitled Biblical Archaeology in Focus. All right? Now, I'd like to sit there and go, brothers and sisters, on page 352 for a particular reason concerning this kind of matter. We used this last time, but I want to show this right here is a symbol or an object that they found in reference about the land of the tribe of Dan. Okay, so just want to sit there and let that be noted and shown. All right? So now I'm going to read something out of this, and here's what we read. It says this: later constructions at Dan show evidence of an occupation in the 8th century, no doubt brought to an end by the Assyrians in 732 BCE, and of a still later occupation lasting perhaps to the early 6th century BCE, a period when the prophet Jeremiah made mention of Dan, as we see in Jeremiah chapter 8 verse 16. Two of the most exciting finds at Tel Dan were a horned altar discovered in 1974 and a plaque with a bilingual inscription found in 1976. The Tel Dan altar was cut from a single limestone block. It measures approximately 16 by 16 inches. Byron, who is an archaeologist, has dated the Dan altar to the 9th century or earlier. Such altars were used primarily for burning incense. Now, that right there is very important to what we're about to get into and describe, because now, brothers and sisters, when we go, okay, for evidence purposes, let's go, if we will, into the scriptures. We're going to Isaiah. We're going to go to Isaiah chapter 65, verse 3. All right, remember it says on horn altar and the situation with incense. And here is what we read in the scriptures, Isaiah chapter 65 verse 3. It says the following: a people, speaking of the house of Israel, a people that provoke me to anger continually to my face, that sacrifice in gardens and burneth incense upon altars of brick, which remain among the graves and lodge in the monuments, which eat swine's flesh and broth of abominable things in their vessels. So this right here goes to show you that the ancient house of Israel, archaeology and scripturally, are being shown with these kind of altars that people use to sit there and burn incense upon them. Unfortunately, what they found was due to the issue of them dealing with idolatry. And this is what brought the Assyrian captivity upon the house of Israel, which we're going to get into as we continue on in this presentation. So I just want to sit there and have that, brothers and sisters, to be read and shown concerning this kind of matter. This book here, because we're going to have a lot of references, it is entitled The Ancient Near East in Texts and Pictures, edited by Pritchard. Page 190. We're going to go into this. I don't want to sit there and read part of this and see what it's and show that is what it says. Okay, here's what we read. It says the following. This is a record left, brothers and sisters, by the Assyrian king. That is to say, Shalmaneser III, who was the Assyrian king in the 9th century BCE. Part of it says as follows. He brought along to help him 1,200 chariots, 1,200 cavalrymen, 20,000 foot soldiers of Adad Iri of Damascus, 700 chariots, 700 cavalrymen, 10,000 foot soldiers of Ihuleni of Hamath, 2,000 chariots, 10,000 foot soldiers of Ahab the Israelite, Ahabu Israela. So I want to sit there and just have that to be read, that in this book right here, page 190, it speaks about Shalmaneser III in a secular reference, external biblical reference, speaking about the Israelite king Ahab, who was the son of Omri of the house of Israel. So I just want to sit there and have that to be read and shown. Let's go back to the scriptures to confirm. Let's go to the book of 1 Kings 16, verse 32, so we can gain an understanding of what we're speaking of. All right, 1 Kings chapter 16, verse 32, all right? Here's what we read. Hope everyone is having a good evening. Here is what we read, and it says the following. And he reared up an altar for Baal in the house of Baal, which he had built in Samaria. And Ahab made a grove, and Ahab did more to provoke Yah, the God of Israel, to anger more than the kings of Israel that were before him. So we have a biblical and an external reference, yet once again speaking about a particular king of Israel or Israel by the name of Ahab. Now in Hebrew, his name is pronounced as Achab, which literally means father's brother. So let that be noted and understood. All right, so I want to sit there and continue on in this kind of presentation. Now, same book, Biblical Archaeology and Focus. We're going to go to page 404. All right, so we can gain an understanding concerning what we're about to get into concerning this presentation. All right, and here is what we read, and it says the following. This, brothers and sisters, is a picture that they found of ancient times of people writing in Hebrew, dated to the time before the time of Herod. So that's something I want to sit there and have that to be noted and shown concerning this kind of presentation. All right. So now, in your own time, brothers and sisters, when you go into what is referred to as the Lachish letters, all right, inside of what they call the Lachish letters dates also to the time before Herod. When you read in your own time, brothers and sisters, to the time of Solomon with the Gezer calendar, Gezer, that also dates to the time before Herod, in which they had a Hebrew inscription in a Hebrew writing. When you look up what they refer to as the Danite Stela or the Danite Stele, Danitestele, it speaks about King David, Beit Yisrael, King David of the house of Israel, and that's dated to the 10th century or the 9th century BCE. So these are secular, different Hebrew references of Hebrew writing that date to the time before Herod. Why do I mention that situation? Because many people into debating the Israelites will like to sit there and say, can you show me any Hebrew inscription prior to the time of Herod? So these are situations, just want to sit there and let that be noted, that dates to the time prior to Herod. The Lachish letters, the Gezer calendar, the Danite Stela, and the situation of what happened that we just showed there, dated to the time before such. All right, so let that be noted and understood. Brothers and sisters, I would like to now, if we will, for external references. I have a book here, sorry, the cover is off, but it is entitled The Bible as History in Pictures by Warner Keller. Now, in this book right here, brothers and sisters, on page 251, here is something that we see that's very, as far as I'm concerned, very, very interesting concerning this kind of matter. All right? And here is what it says. Here's what we read. Page 251 in this book here. And here is what we see. This here, brothers and sisters, is referred to as what is called the Hezekiah Prison. All right, so this is something to let it be known and shown. This is dated to the time of Sennacherib, the king of Assyria, who was the successor of Sargon. All right, it says in part, as for Hezekiah of Judah, who did not submit to my yoke, 46 of his strong-walled cities, as well as innumerable small cities in their neighborhood, I besieged with scaling ladders, siege engines, infantry, breaches, mines, and tunneling, and I conquered them. Those of the cities which I had plundered, I cut off from his land, and diminished his land. I increased his former tribute, and exacted a yearly tax in acknowledgement of my sovereignty. But as for Hezekiah, he was intimidated by the splendor of my power. So 2 times in what they refer to as the Hezekiah prison by King Sennacherib of Assyria, he mentions Hezekiah or Hezekiah, meaning strength of mind is of the Most High in the Hebrew. All right, this right here is from the situation of what we see inside the Sennacherib war, speaking about them capturing people out of the city of Lachish, of the land of the tribe of Judah. So you see the people that's kneeling and the people in there that are captives. All right, so that right there is something to let it be known and shown in history. Let's go, if we will, brothers and sisters. 2 Kings chapter 18, verse 13. All right, so we can gain an understanding concerning what we're talking about. 2 Kings 18, verse 13 says the following. All right. And here is what it says. Now in the 14th year of King Hezekiah, meaning Hezekiah of Judah, did Sennacherib, king of Assyria, come up against all the fenced cities of Judah and took them. And Hezekiah, king of Judah, sent to king of Assyria to Lachish, saying, I have offended, return from me. That which thou puttest on me will I bear. And the king of Assyria appointed unto Hezekiah, king of Judah, 300 talents of silver and 30 talents of gold. Now that right there comes out of the scriptures itself. Once again, in external references and biblical references speaking of the same individuals. So just want to go over those couple of things. So when people say, oh, can you prove anybody outside of the Bible itself, then yes, there are sources of such. And there are numerous amounts of more. But for the sake of time, we're going to sit there and continue on in this presentation, okay? Let's go, if we will, brothers and sisters, to 1 Chronicles chapter 5, verse 25 for edification purposes. We are back in the scriptures. 1 Chronicles chapter 5, verse 25. Okay, and here is what we read. Actually, I got the scripture I'm about to read from some brothers that actually came from ISUPK, believe it or not, when they was teaching about the scattering of the tribes of Israel. They was on 42nd Street and 8th Avenue in Manhattan, teaching back in 1993. And this is when I got this actual quote. So yes, I learned from different schools. So let that be noted. We are in 1 Chronicles chapter 5, verse 25. And here is what it says. And they transgressed against the God of their fathers, and went a-whoring after the gods of the people of the land, whom Elohim delivered before them, destroyed before them. Pardon me. And the God of Israel stirred up the spirit of Pul, king of Assyria, even the spirit of Tiglath-Pileser, the king of Assyria. And he carried them away captive, even the Reubenites and the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, and brought them unto Halah and Habor and Harah, into the river of Gozan to this day. Now what the brother is showing you is a picture of the ancient map of ancient Israel, where you see Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh on the east side of the Jordan. These are the tribes, brothers and sisters, that was taken by Tiglath-Pileser III, the king of Assyria. So let that be noted and understood. Back to a secular reference. Once again, this book right here, The Ancient Near East, edited by James Pritchard. And we're going to go, brothers and sisters, if we will, to page 193, so we can gain an understanding concerning this kind of matter. All right, here is what it says. It says the following. Page 194, sorry. It says, as for Menahem, I overthrew him like a snowstorm, and he fled like a bird alone, and bowed to my feet. I returned him to his place and imposed tribute upon him, to wit, gold, silver, and linen garments, and multicolored trimmings. Great I received from him. Israel and all its inhabitants, their possessions I led to Assyria. They overthrew their king Pekah, and I placed Hosea king over them. And I received from them 10 talents of gold, 1,000 talents of silver, and their tribute was brought to them to Assyria. So I just want to sit there and have that to be read, once again showing that Hosea and Menahem and Pekah, some of the same kings that you read of in the book of Kings in the scriptures, is mentioned by Tiglath-Pileser. All right, so let that be noted and understood. Now, brothers and sisters, the Tiglath-Pileser that we just spoke about was Tiglath-Pileser III, the king of Assyria. And his successor was a guy named Shalmaneser V, who was succeeded, brothers and sisters, by the king Sargon, who was succeeded by the king Sennacherib, who was succeeded by the king Esarhaddon, who was succeeded by the king Ashurbanipal. And Ashurbanipal is the king who was the one that had Egypt on lockdown when he sat there and conquered the city of Waset, aka the city of Thebes. So just want to sit there and just have that to be noted and understood in history. All right, so let's continue on. Brothers and sisters, okay, continuing on in the notes right here. I want to sit there now that we conclude the subject matter concerning the issue of external references of the Israelites and other nations' records. This right here I wanted to talk about. This here is the Hebrew alphabet, the modern script form of the Hebrew alphabet. Now, despite the fact of it being the modern script form, I want to show something, if we will. This letter right here is pronounced as the letter Hey. Some pronounce it as the letter Ha. Okay? And it makes the H sound in Hebrew. This letter right here is the letter Tha or Thou. And it makes the TH sound. These two letters here, Hey and Thou, are feminine letters in Hebrew. Now, when you're dealing in Hebrew phonetics, as we went over last time, we were speaking about the issue of the feminine principle about Adama. Adama in Hebrew is spelled with the Hebrew letters Aleph, Dalet, Mem, Hey. You understand? So let that be noted. Anytime in Hebrew, when you have what is referred to, brothers and sisters, as Kwamat, followed by the letter Hey, that is how you know and understand the feminine principle in Hebrew. So the understanding, going back to Numbers chapter 16, when Moshe or Moses said, if the Most High do a new thing and the earth opened her mouth, that shows you, it says, Wa tiftach ha'aretz. The same word tiftach, brothers and sisters, from the root word patak, meaning to open, starts off with this letter right here, the letter Thou. So I just want to sit there and show that for edification purposes, so people can sit there and see what in the world that we're talking about. All right, so that shows you what that is as far as that's concerned in that aspect. Now, brothers and sisters, I have the Stone Edition Old Testament Tanakh as we see right here. All right, now I want to read two things out of this from the Hebrew. Genesis chapter 1 verse 11 and Genesis chapter 1 verse 24 to show more solidified the point and premise of what we're talking about. And here is what it says in the Hebrew as the brother is showing on the screen with you. It says the following. Vayomar Elohim, and God, he said, Tad sheha aretz deshe, eseb mazriya zera etz peri, ose peri lemino, ashel zar obo al haaretz why he came. Now, two key words I wanted to point out in this particular verse, as you see as the brother is showing on the screen there, is emphatically saying what? Tad sheha aretz deshe. Now, that first word, remember Hebrew is always read from right to left. So when you're seeing that first letter right here, being the letter Thou, showing the feminine principle in that aspect, it is saying let the earth, she should bring forth, or she will bring forth grass. That's to be noted that the feminine principle in Hebrew is always shown in reference with the earth. The earth is always shown in the feminine principle, whereas when it comes to Egyptian pantheon, you have it to where, brothers and sisters, where Jeb or Jeb is shown in the masculine. But how can that be when the earth takes seed? Men don't take seed, men give seed. So that right there just goes to show you exactly what that point is right there. Genesis chapter 1 verse 24, so we can gain an understanding concerning this kind of matter. All right, and here is what it says within this, as the brother is showing to you on the screen now. All right, it says the following. Wayomar Elohim, Totse ha'aret nefesh kaya, lemino behema, wademes wachai to, aret, lemina, why he came. Now, one of the things I wanted to point out in this is the third word, Totse. It comes from the Hebrew word yatzah, which means to go out or to go forth. You understand? So what it's basically saying in the English is, and the Most High said, let the earth bring forth the living creatures. So the animals, or kaya in this particular case, actually came from the earth itself. The earth is our mother in that particular aspect. So I just want to sit there and let that be known and shown that that is speaking in reference with the feminine principle in Hebrew. As shown, the letter Hey or Ha, as the brother is showing you once again, is one feminine letter in Hebrew, and the letter Thou, as the brother is showing you right now, is another and second and only two Hebrew letters that are of the feminine principle. So those letters, when you study in Hebrew, are used quite often. Now, when people try to sit there and say that the Torah came from Ma'at, let's sit there and see what kind of logic these brothers and sisters are trying to sit there and come with when we sit there and get into the subject matter itself. We're going to go over real quick and brief what they call the principles of Ma'at, or the 42 confessions. I have not committed sin. Okay, now, if you're saying you ain't commit sin, you got to sit back and then ask, what is sin? According to the Bible, sin is the transgression of law. But if you're saying that they didn't have any law because they just dealt by the spirit and law of nature, did you sin against nature? These things is folly that they're presenting. So let's go on. Okay, I have not committed robbery with violence. I have not stolen. I have not slain men or women. I have not stolen food. I have not swindled orphans. I have not stolen from God or goddess. I have not told lies. I have not carried away food. I have not cursed. I have not closed my ears to truth. I have not committed adultery. I have not made anyone cry. I have not felt sorrow without reason. I have not assaulted anyone. I am not deceitful. I have not stolen anyone's land. I have not been an eavesdropper. I have not falsely accused anyone. I have not been angry without reason. I have not seduced another's wife. I have not polluted myself. I have not terrorized anyone. I have not disobeyed the law. That's number 24. I have not been exclusively angry. I have not cursed God or goddess. I have not behaved with violence. I have not caused disruption of peace. I have not acted hastily or without thought. I have not overstepped my boundaries of concern. I have not exaggerated my words when speaking. I have not worked evil. I have not used evil thoughts, words, or deeds. I have not polluted the water. I have not spoken angrily or arrogantly. I have not cursed anyone in thought, word, or deeds. I have not placed myself on a pedestal. I have not stolen what belonged to God or goddess. I have not stolen from or disrespected the deceased. I have not taken food from God. I have not taken food from a child. I have not acted with insolence. I have not destroyed property belonging to God or goddess.
Now, can I